Hi, my name's Al and today I'm going to show you how to replace your Shimano external threaded bottom bracket. You don't need many tools for this job. You will need a soft face mallet, some grease, a torque wrench is a really good idea, and if you've got one of the older bottom brackets or anything below XT, including old XT in fact, then this tool will suffice for removing the bottom bracket. That's this end, and this will deal with your preload cap. Things have changed slightly now. There's a smaller diameter BB, so they run smaller balls in the races, and you need a smaller tool. These BBs actually come with the tool, which is to be honest, a bit of a shonky plastic job, which converts your old BB tool to the new size. So if you're really stuck, you will get one with your BB, or at least you should, certainly with an aftermarket BB. Or you can buy a proper tool such as this, which is the BBT 49 from Park Tool, and that will fit the new XDR BBs. I believe the new XT BBs will use the same diameter. If you have a standalone tool like that, you'll also need a tool for the preload cap, such as one of these. Okay, so the first step is to undo these two pinch bolts, which hold the crank, left-hand crank arm onto the axle. You need to undo these in stages. Don't undo one fully, because you'll put all of the strain on the remaining bolt, which could damage the threads. So once they're loose, we need to remove the preload cap from the end. This system's just like a threadless headset. So imagine this is your stem and that's your preload cap. Remove that, and unless you've got a very old crank, there will be a tab here. It's a safety tab. Just pop that up with a little screwdriver or something similar, and then you should be able to pull the left-hand crank free off the axle. With that out of the picture, we take our soft face mallet and knock the right hand side crank and axle out through the BB. If it gets a bit stuck, give it a little helping hand, and there you have it. With the crank out, we can remove the bottom bracket. Now it's a left hand thread on the drive side, so you're turning it clockwise. I can tell that this bottom bracket has had it because it feels really rough and rumbly when you turn the bearings. If they feel rough or if there's any play, then that's a sure sign that you need to replace it. You remove the non-drive side, it's a regular thread. So turn it anti-clockwise to remove. You'll notice that there's spacers on the cups. This is a 68mm shell, so it has 3 spacers. Depending on what kind of setup you've got will depend on the number of spacers that you have. Each of the spacers are 2.5mm, so the difference between a 68 and a 73 is that you lose 2 of the spacers. So you'll always have 1 spacer on the drive side. Reason for that is if you're running an E-type front mech that mounts onto the bottom bracket, or a bottom bracket mounted chain guide. And that's it. I know it's a 68, but just so you know, it is literally the width of the shell You can measure it with a ruler, or some calipers will make it a bit easier. So just measure across, and then yeah, that gives us our width. It might not be exactly 68 or exactly 73, but it'll be pretty obvious which it is. Shimano are kind enough to pre-grease the threads on their BBs. We'll add some extra to the frame itself. It's not going to do any harm. So that's nicely greased. We can thread in our BB. The spacer in the middle is marked R and L, obviously right and left, as are the cups, right and left. They won't go in the wrong way because the threads are different. We need to add our spacers. So we have a 68 shell. We aren't running an E-type front mech or a BB mounted chain device. So we've got 2 on the drive side and 1 on the non-drive side. Always tighten them initially by hand. That way you can be sure that you've not cross-threaded anything, because that could be pretty terminal as far as your frame's concerned. And then do the final tightening with your tool. Don't be shy with tightening these. The cups have arrows on, so it's pretty obvious which way you need to turn them. So that's the new BB installed. Now we're going to fit the crank. Shimano put plenty of grease inside their BBs, but some other manufacturers don't. That'll effectively grease the axle as we push it through, but it's not a bad habit to get into, to grease the axle, just to make sure that the bearing won't be sitting on bare metal, which might cause a problem when it comes to removal. A little bit of grease inside there for the threads as well. It's a good idea. Offer the axle up and push it through. Make sure it's tapped all the way home with your soft face mallet. That's fully butted up against the drive side cup. Next up, we're fitting the non-drive side crank arm. Just pops into place. You can't get it wrong because it's got a fat spline on the axle that lines up with the crank. Screw your preload cap into place. I find the best way to adjust this is to tighten it fully and back it off, and then just nip it up, and that should give you a nice smooth bottom bracket. If you have too much preload, you're going to be working a bit too hard on the bike, and it's going to wear your bearings out more quickly. With your torque wrench set to 13 Newton meters, Shimano reckon 12 to 14 it is, then we need to nip up the pinch bolts. Do them both bit by bit. As you're nearing the torque, pop down the safety tab, which prevents your cranks from dropping off should the bolts come loose, but they shouldn't if you torque them properly. And when both the bolts are brought up to torque, that's it, all ready to go. So that's it, we're all done. Thanks for watching and we'll see you next time. Cheers.